Dad actually watching?
Yes.
Oh, he's gonna love this one. We've had so many beautiful stories tonight, and there are so many that I've heard about parenthood. And for me, it is fascinating to hear it from that perspective, because I know that almost every single parent has had one more difficult child. That was me. I was that kid. And when you take your difficult child on her first business class flight, she does difficult child things, and a lot of that involves, Dad, how do I put my seat back? Gia, it's the lever on the side. But what side? The right side. Now, I didn't know my right from my left, so I spent that whole 13-hour flight sleeping hunched over like this. I called it comfortable, my dad called it a waste of $3,000. But when I got off that plane and I got my ride home, got out of the car, walked up my driveway, and entered my house, my lovely mother greeted me after a 12-hour workday. And she was at the foot of the table, paperwork covering the dinner table, tears going down her face. You see, the second I got out of that car, my dad would effectively disappear for the following 2 months until he picked my brother and I up for the next vacation. I have been split between two worlds nearly my entire life. My father, who traveled for work and took my brother and I with him, and my mother, who worked 3 jobs to support my brother and I practically alone. And when you have your little girl with one foot in each world, and she loves her parents so much, she begins to tear. And when you're so young, and you're 12 years old, and you're trying so hard to balance both worlds, you begin to lose focus of everything else. And suddenly the world starts to lose its color. And you realize that you can't really enjoy the vacations with your dad anymore, and you can't really enjoy helping mom cook for the family, and suddenly you can't enjoy much. And you haven't felt happy in, 4 years, and suddenly you can't feel like you're a kid anymore because you're not. Because you don't have the time to be. And for the longest time, I thought I was alone in this. Until one evening, I heard a fight break out between my mom and my brother, and all I had to hear was, Mom, listen, listen, listen! And of course, I pressed my ear to the door, and I listened. And it was the classic family fight. My brother didn't clean up around the house before going out with his friends. But what really struck me was the way my brother was caught in the same situation I was, but with 2 entirely different worlds. What I heard him say was, Mom, I left the house because friends are the family I chose. And my mom tried to tug him to her side, and she went, that's not true. And he began to tear. The moment I saw that, I recognized this pattern everywhere. It could be as simple, Dad, listen, I'm feeling a little sad and I don't know what to do. And the dad goes, son, back in my day, we used to work on the farm and we didn't know what sadness was. Or a simple, Mom, listen, I'm a little tired today. And the mom goes, well, you should have gotten more sleep. You're on that phone all night. And the parents take the child and tear them into their own world. And what happens when you take something and you pull so far, it either snaps or it flies away. It's not that difficult. In fact, I'm sure your child tells you all the time what they want you to do. That night, when I came home, and I was unpacking for my trip, my mom came upstairs from her 12-hour workday after her tasks of going through all the paperwork and the month's taxes, and she came into my room. And she sat down on my bed and she looked at me, and for once, I could tell that she wasn't going to try to pull or push me anywhere. And in that moment, I spoke to her. And I told her about how for the past 4 years, life had lost its color. And I was so confused and I was so scared because my friends were outside playing, my friends could study for school, my friends were giggling over boys, and I couldn't do any of that. And I was 13 and I didn't know why. And my mom just listened. It's normal for a child to be caught between two worlds. That's all what growing up is. But when it gets bad is when a child feels the need to take its feet out of each world and they isolate. And most parents don't realize they're isolated until it's too late. The night my mother sat there and listened, it was the night after my second suicide attempt. I was 13, and I was already planning my third. Her listening saved me. I was lucky, but so many others aren't. You see, there is no such thing as a difficult child. I wasn't difficult. My brother was not difficult. There's no such thing as a difficult child. They just need one person to listen.
Bravo!